Well, hello, all of you out there in social media land. And I am getting on here to deal with another subject. It might still be somewhat on the lines of the last subject that I dealt with. I dealt with relationship. And in dealing with relationship, I did ask a question today. This question was brought to me, so I decided let me uh, put this out here. The question that I asked was, since you have been married, those that have been married, so we're dealing with marriage, of course, what has your marriage benefited you? Um, what have you gotten from marriage? Um, One person said, I got a kid. Another person said, there's entirely too many things that I have gotten to name. I can't even name them all because I've gotten so much. Um, there was a few different things that was said and answered, and I believe that people are going to be giving answers to this all day because that's one of those type of questions. But what has marriage benefited you? And I wish that there was some that I could have asked them, well, how long have you been together? How long have you been married? My wife and I, we will have been together for 30 years, coming up in April 11th. And we have been through a whole lot of things. But I was reminded of an old song. It's old song. It's not really old, but I tell you, some of these young people would think that it was ancient. But it was by Janet Jackson. And Janet Jackson asked a question in this song. She said, "What have you done for me lately?" And unfortunately, we treat God like this. We treat each other like this. We treat our spouses like this. We treat people like this. What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? And in other words, we're only as good as our last good deed. Only as good as our last good deed. And being that we're only as good as our last good deed, no matter what good we have done, all of that means absolutely nothing. And that's what takes us to the point of splitting, going our separate ways, separating, and even divorcing because we have the mentality of what have you done for me lately. Now, I'm not speaking for everyone because every situation and every marriage is different. There are some marriages that may be bad from the start. Some got married just because they were, according to the Bible, burning. The Bible says if you can't contain, uh, get married because it's better to marry than it is to burn. So we take that and we just run with it and just marry the first person that or the one that got us on fire. And that's not what the Bible is telling us to do. So we want to deal with that just for a moment. I want to deal with covenant. I want to deal with marriage. I want to deal with commitment. Now, when we deal with covenant, a covenant can be a vow that's made. The Bible said it's best not to make a vow at all than to make a vow and break it. So a lot of times you'll find that people will do things just because they feel good. When I'm doing marriage counseling, I tell people, I say, listen, when you are in an argument, conversation, whatever it is, you have to be sober minded. You have to think before you speak. And the two worst times to speak is You don't want to say anything when you're too angry. Because if you talk when you're too angry, you're going to be saying something that you can't take back. And this is going to sound crazy, but you don't want to say anything when you're too happy. Because if you're talking when you're too happy, you're going to say some things that you can't live up to. Now, I'm going to show my age a little bit. I remember back in the days that people used to call themselves macking. And when they called themselves macking, what they would do, they would tell their woman, baby, I want to take you to the moon. That sounds so crazy nowadays, don't it? But taking them to the moon. And they say that because of what they're feeling at that moment, because of how fine she is, about how she makes his heart beat. And when he says that, it's at the highest point of his excitement. So when he brings that forth, he's not thinking about what he's saying, because he's telling her that he wants to take her to the moon. He doesn't have a space shuttle. His car's not going to make it. Some of them don't even have a car, but got the nerve to say, I'm going to take you to the moon. So you don't say anything that when you're too upset because you're going to say some things you can't take back. Don't say anything when you're too happy because you're going to say some things that you can't live up to. I'll never do this against you. I'll never argue with you. I'll never do that. No, you can't speak on those things in that way just because you're feeling good. So we have to understand commitment. Vows, those are vows. When you're saying what you're going to do, saying what you're not going to do, all those different types of things. But when you get married and you make a vow and you make it through thick and thin. You make it through rich and for poorer, in sickness and in health, until God by death shall separate you. And that's God separating you at that time, because death has occurred. Now, when we deal with that, I want you to understand this, that that is a commitment and that is a vow, and sometimes we take the words that come out of our mouths so lightly. We don't live like we used to live when it says my word is my bond. All I have is my word. We don't live like that the way that we used to. But if we make a vow and we say, I'm going to be with you through thick and through thin, that says a whole lot right there. I'm going to be with you through thick and thin. That's when, the love is strong. And that's when there's barely nothing to hold on to, and what do we do then? We have to find what it is that put us in that spot in the first place. What was it that made you say yes? What was it that made you get down on one knee? What was it that made you love them the way that you loved them in the beginning? What was it? Those are the things that you have to find at times. Even the Bible talks on going back to your first love. Now, don't y'all get it twisted, because y'all take that all out of context and you'll turn around and try to go back to the first girl that you loved or the first guy that you fell in love with. And that's not what it's saying. But the first love, the first time that you fell in love with the one you fell in love with. And in this case, the Bible is talking about Jesus. But when we take that word, we can talk about our wives and your husbands as well. So commitment. You have to know that in committing, you've made a commitment, you've made a vow. You have to be able to hold on. It's going to get hard, thick and thin. And what are some of the causes that make things get thin within relationship? What are some of the causes that makes things get thick? Sometimes you can do so much for me. You can love me the right way. You can do this, you can do that, and those things will cause love to thicken. But then when you're not there, when you're taking me through hell, you're treating me like garbage, that's going to make the love get thin. Now, I've dealt with so many people being a pastor. I've dealt with some that on every so often, every month, or so, or every couple of months, there are addicts, and sometimes addicts might not do what they do every day. You have some things that's called functioning addicts, but every so often, the man might go out on a cocaine binge. In other words, go out every so often and just spend up all of his money on cocaine, sell his car, come back home without anything, don't have the money for the rent, the bills, and this and that. And my God, it brings forth trouble within a relationship. I've watched that so many times. I've watched it even to the point to where I would get calls from people at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. My husband has not been home in 2 days. Well, when was the last time you heard from him? When the last time you saw him? Well, he told me he was going to be down at this place and he just needed to clear his mind. And when they said that he was going to be in this place, they didn't know the city. They didn't know the place, but it come to the point to where that man was at a place where homosexuals meet. In other words, he was leaving his wife for days and going out and hanging with other men. And if you are marrying her, I don't think it's proper. Matter of fact, I know it's not proper because adultery in itself is wrong. And to go out and to fool her and to make her think that you want her when you want something else is out of order and out of control. Now, in that sense, you are able then to get a divorce and there will be nothing that will be held against you. You can have you somebody else then because that person has broken their vow. And the Bible talks on that being the cause for divorce, the cause for divorce. Now, but thick and thin, there's sometimes you hold on throughout some things. You hold on throughout different things. You try to help them through their struggles. You try to help them through some of the things that they are dealing with. So thick and thin. Now, we go to the next one, being that it says richer or for poorer. And I want us to understand that the Bible declares that the love of money is the root of all evil. And money, not only the love of money is the root of all evil, but money answers all your natural needs here. So when it comes to that, money is a big problem when it comes to marriage, especially if one is making all the money and the other is not. They begin to look down on one. They might talk about you. They might walk away from you because of that. But forgetting that they have made a vow, and the vow said through richer or for poorer. And some will say then, well, they said for richer or for poor, but they didn't say just give up. They didn't say don't try. They didn't say this or that. And we have to be careful on those things because the Bible says that if one does not provide for his family, he is worse than an infidel. Now, an infidel, it simply means non-believer. You are worse than a non-believer at that time. You are no good in the sight of God if you are not giving your wife what she needs. Now, I want to tell the men what I teach us. I teach us that men are three things in their home. And these three things, I know we're more than that, but these are three things that we usually look at and point out. Now, these three things are, we are the priest. Now, what does the priest do? The priest provides spiritual, the spiritual things in the home. When you deal with that, we are supposed to set that atmosphere for God to move and do whatever he wants to. We have to show forth that we are the rightful leaders in that house by leading to God. Come on now. We are not only that, but we are the protector. Now, I often deal with this one, and I'm trying to get through this quick because I'm realizing that My time is going because I'm talking an awful lot, but this is one that I love to deal with. I love to deal with the protector. We are the protector. Now, when we deal with being a protector, a lot of times we have to understand that we protect not only from from harm, but we protect from hurt. We protect from danger. We protect from so many different things. We want to take the hit. We want to take whatever it is that's coming because we will not allow it to touch our wives. And so when they are the protector of their home, of their wives, as well as their children, understand this, that if you are going to be a protector, you have to truly be a protector. Now, when I say that, I'm saying that to say this. If you have a bodyguard, now usually that bodyguard is paid. And if that bodyguard is paid to do what he does, that bodyguard is at your disposal. He is not going to rise up to you. He's not going to talk down on you. He's not going to treat you any kind of way, but he's going to be exactly what he was hired to do. Now, if we are the protector of our homes, we have to understand that if we're the protector, we should govern ourselves accordingly. There should never be a time where someone should have to protect our family from us. Oh my God. Now that one, it threw something in there because we're calling ourselves a protector, saying, I'm not going to let this ever happen to my wife. You let somebody come up on my wife, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But what about when you are slapping her up? What about when you are choking her? What about when you have her in the corner scared while you're yelling in her face and she's scared to death, needing protection at that time? What about those things? You cannot be a protector when you are the one that's bringing harm, hurt, and danger. All right. I can go with that one for a long time. When I teach on these, we get deep into these things. But also the provider. We are supposed to provide not just financially, but all over the place. Now, what I want us to understand that when we deal with these three things, that is a great base for the covenant, the marriage, the things that we are supposed to do. Now, going through thick and thin, richer and for poorer, sickness and in health, until God by death shall separate us. When I asked that question on this morning concerning what have you gotten out of marriage, it should be much more than just a child. It should be much more than just a house or finances. Sometimes we forget all of the in-between, because when things are thick, they're thick, but when they get thin, it seems like it takes from us. It takes our mind. It takes from us about how good things were. It takes from us, all the good things that we had. Now, if we take the time to think back throughout it all, it will get us to a point to where we might not even want to separate, might not even want to leave, might not want to do these, because if we haven't done our part, sometimes those are the things that we mess up the most, because we're not doing our part. There's a cause and there's an effect. But when you are the head, you're the one that is to think clearly, no matter what your body goes through. Working, hurting, having this, having that, you're still going to do what you got to do in order to get ahead in life. Sometimes you might wake up and you have to go to work. Even though you're hurting in your body, you have to go. You go because you want to have something better. You want that money. You want something out of this. Now, what about our marriages when it gets thin? What are we going to do? Are we going to continue to press? Or when it gets hot, are we going to be the ones to put the log on the fire? Or are we going to try to put the fire out? And then we make things blow up so big. And when it blows up because of you, you in turn want to turn around and leave. Oh my God, it's something wrong with that. So we're looking at covenant, and we're looking at keeping our covenant. And when we break them, some folks have lost their jobs. And they lost their jobs because they weren't performing the way that they needed to. They were doing everything wrong. When it was time to deal with the things on the computer, what they're doing, they're sending emails, Facebook, doing this and doing that. So, and that's found out, and they end up losing their job. And there's some responses that kind of blow me away, because the responses that blow me away are this. They'll turn around and they'll look at the fact they lost their job because they were on Facebook, weren't doing their job, weren't performing good. Every time it was time to come back from break, they were back 20, 30 minutes late and just doing what they want to do on the job. And then they lose their job. And the first thing that comes to their mind is, those folks just don't like me. They're treating me bad. They've had it out for me since day one. No, they haven't had it out for you. You had it out for yourself. Sometimes we will do so many harsh, bad, messed up things, but we want to blame the one who doesn't give us what we need. We want to blame the one that is upset and angry with us. We want to blame the ones that take from us the things that they have given us because of the way that we are acting, but we want to blame them. And we got to get to the point to where we take responsibility for the things that we do. Because if we don't take responsibility for ourselves, we're in a bad place altogether. So we can't get to the point to where we're saying, these folks don't like me. These folks ain't doing this. These folks ain't doing that. But we do the same thing in our marriages. You're not giving the love. You're not giving the affection. You're not giving the attention. You're not understanding when the Bible says two is better than one, because if one falls down, he has another one there to pick him up or pick her up, whichever way. But I want you to understand what we do instead. When one falls down, we kick them while they're down. And if you're kicking them while they're down, when they get up, they're going to hold resentment. When they get up, they're going to have an attitude. They're going to have a problem because they had to do it all on their own when you two were together. Even more so, you two were supposed to be one. So understand this. Love covers a multitude of faults. It covers a multitude of faults. And so many times we don't realize that. Or maybe we realize it, but maybe we don't love the way that we think we do. Maybe it's not love. New Edition, if it isn't love, why do I feel this way? Why, this and that. But that's coming from us. If it's love, love is you're going to feel that. You're not going to just let go of some things. Love will cover up some things, because love, even to the point when you love somebody, you can't even see them doing the hurtful and the bad things that they're doing to you. I've seen people that are so in love with people that they're getting cheated on, they're getting treated this way, and they're saying because they love them so much, well, I must have did this, or I must. Now, you don't want to get to that point to self-blame either, blaming yourself for everything, but you have to be at a point to where you're able to work things out. Oh my time is running out, so I'm going to get to the end of this. But love covers a multitude of faults. And men, what we have to understand is that the woman is indeed the weaker vessel. Now, we hear a whole lot of things. Women are stronger than men. They are in a whole lot of areas. Because I know this one thing. You don't ever think to yourself that I can push out a baby. God didn't make me that way. What God gave you is what God gave to you. So it's important that we know where we are, who we are, where we stand. But when it comes to being the priest, the provider, the protector, you are in those areas because you have the strength. You are in those areas because God placed you in those areas. According to the Bible, God has placed you in a place of leadership within your home. Now, when the other takes that place of leadership, and you're not in your rightful place, that distorts some things. Next thing you know, you're getting talked down on. You're getting treated like this, and the roles come to the point to where they're reversed to the point that the man feels like the woman and the woman feels like the man. So you have to make sure that you are in your rightful place. Relationship. So what have you gotten out of your marriage? What have you gotten good out of your marriage? Even if you've gotten married and you have been divorced, even if you have left, even if it's over, even if whatever, if you stayed married for a good amount of time, there was a reason you got married. There's a reason that you stayed in there. There's a reason that you didn't want to let go. So tell me, what good did you get out of your marriage? I think I'm going to leave it at that. God bless. Talk to you later.